Hey guys, how's it going? Alex Scott here with Consordini.com. Thank you so much for checking out another one of our super cool studio gear reviews. Today we're taking a look at a really cool and really innovative plugin that I've used for a very long time. This is Glitch 2 from Illformed. Now, this plugin and I have kind of a long history. I actually very first found this plugin way back when I was maybe, I don't even know, 14, 15, 16, something like that. I was a teenager. I was working in Fruity Loops, like 6 or something like that. I'm almost 30 now, so this is 10, 15 years ago. And I found this plugin online. I can't remember if it was free or super cheap or something. I found it on some, via best, cheap, or free VSTs for the money, blah, blah, blah kind of site way back in the day. And I was producing a lot of like down-tempoed EDM and stuff like that. And I was looking for cool, unique, textural, glitchy plugins that I could use to do distortion, all different kinds of things. I ran across it online, downloaded it, started using it, and fell in love. I thought it was such an innovative concept, even back then in its original incarnation 10 plus years ago. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was totally unique. What it did and how it did it was just really intriguing to me. And I've kept up with the plugin over all these years. Nowadays, they're on to Glitch 2. This is version 2.1.1, which I believe is the most recent release. And it's only gotten cooler, only gotten more full-featured, and only gotten more innovative since I started using it all those years ago. So we're just going to go over a quick overview of it. We're going to listen to what it does, and I'm going to try to share with you guys why I think this is such a cool and unique plugin. So you can see here we have this kind of step sequencer-like arrangement window, right? And we have these different kind of rows or tracks, and each of these has a different effect assigned to it. So going down the list of the available effects that we have here on these rows, we have stretcher, we have lofi, we have modulator, tape stop, gator, shuffler, reverser, distortion, delay, and retrigger. Now, some of these, it's pretty obvious what the implied kind of title, what you see is what you get, sort of, and some of them are kind of unique. So for each effect, we have these tabs down here, and we have all of these different variable options that allow you to control what this sound is doing. I think you guys are probably already getting an idea of how this works. We're actually able to apply these different effects using the step sequencer in whatever order we want. We can layer them over one another, and we can use them to create interesting dynamic effect patterns, okay? It is so incredibly cool, and it can create such cool sounds. I absolutely love it. So stretcher, starting off with, obviously is going to stretch your audio, and these are all of your controls down here. And you can do this very destructively and get into like almost a granular synthesis type sound, or you can do it more gently. Lo-fi is sort of a general all-around bit crusher type situation. So you see we have bit depth, kind of sample rate, but we also have some frequency modulation stuff in here as well. Modulator is kind of a go-to modulation center, so you can do everything from kind of chorusing, flanging, phasing type effects into more frequency modulation type stuff. Tape stop gives you kind of a tape stop sound effect, kind of a thing, and you can control how quickly or how aggressively it does that. Gator gives us a more kind of step sequenced gate type effect, which is very cool. Shuffler is going to pull from a range of samples around where it's triggered. So when we get into actually listening to it and playing with it, you'll see that this actually has kind of a playhead that as your DAW runs, it just sits here and loops through this whole kind of loop or step sequenced section, and the shuffler plays around within that, so you can tell it the range around when the playhead is within the program. It's going to pull and shuffle around different samples within your audio. You can set the length and all that stuff down here. You can, of course, do free time with any of these that are kind of sync-based. You can do free time, even, triplet, or dotted, and then you have eighths, sixteenths, full beats, quarters, all the way down to 256th notes. Each individual module is incredibly powerful and is incredibly full-featured, which is another really cool thing. But continuing down the list, we have reverser, which obviously is going to reverse individual samples and sounds. Distortion, which is just kind of a general distortion tool. We have razor, shape, fold, and shift, which are all different distortion modes. We have drive, tone, wet and dry, mix, all this kind of stuff. Delay, obviously, is going to be kind of a traditional delay deal, but you even have options in here for speed and slew, which kind of affects the transient response of it. feedback, kind of everything you would expect from a full-featured delay plugin, and then retrigger, which is going to do that kind of beat repeat type Ableton stutter effect. Each of these individually, you guys can see as we look through them, is so incredibly full-featured. You know, if you're looking for just like a kind of granular stretching plugin, this little section right in here is crazily full-featured, more full-featured than you get with a lot of plugins that only do each of these individual things. So for a normal bit crusher plugin, you know, you'll definitely have bit depth, frequency, you might have drive and stuff like that, but you're not going to have frequency modulation options. You're not going to be able to, you know, each of these has their own filter built in, high pass, low pass, band pass, all this stuff. We have wet and dry and panning for each individual effect. We can go in here and randomize. We can either do that here. We have this little dice icon. So I'm on lo-fi. I can hit that there and it's going to randomize my steps. But we can also hit it over here and it's going to randomize my settings. We can copy and paste settings from one module to another. It's just crazy how deep that you can go, even just within each of the individual effects. Modulation, you know, this is a super full-featured modulation plugin just on its own. So that's incredibly cool right there. Each of these you can just do so much. They're so powerful. But then, really, the overarching thing with Glitch is this kind of step sequencing situation that we have going on, because what it allows us to do is create really dynamic and really rhythmic patterns using all of these effects that can totally transform what might be a really plain Jane sound into a really intense, really trippy, and very rhythmic. You know, again, I want to drive that point home. It's all about creating rhythmic sounds. You know, it just is an amazing way to transform something. So I've got a very, very simple sample pulled up here, okay? This is a Mellotron sound. It's just kind of a Mellotron string sound, and I just played a few nice chords. That's really it. Now, you hear that, you go, wow, yeah, that's nice. You know, maybe put a nice reverb or delay on that. It can be a nice, lush, expansive pad. But what if we want to do something really, really crazy? Well, that's where Glitch 2 comes in. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to start off with a real simple one, okay? Just so you guys kind of like get the idea of what's going on here. We're going to do this tape stop, which again is going to create a tape stop sound. I'm going to program in essentially quarter notes. So now let's say we want to start with that and then we want to do modulation for a quarter note. Then we want to do a, I don't even know, gate for a quarter note, and then a lo-fi for a quarter note. So it's taken this really boring string sample and with essentially no work at all, just without really doing much of anything, we've already created a really intriguing and interesting sounding pattern. Let's try distortion instead of tape stop. But, you know, maybe that's a little bit too intense for us. So let's bring back the drive on the distortion and let's bring back our wet-dry mix. Maybe we want to try a different, that's doing kind of wave folding right now. Let's try a different distortion mode. A little more aggressive. I'm sure you guys can see, even just right now doing basic quarter notes, just how incredibly crazy you can go with this thing. And this is what I love about it. So we can create really, really intricate and kind of crazy patterns here. So I'm just playing around. I'm not even messing around with any of the actual settings down here because you can spend, I mean, hours really perfectly crafting things. But you can also just go in and hit randomize on all of these and just see what happens. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I just get lost in this plugin. And you can create such cool and intriguing rhythmic effects when you do the whole randomization thing where you can go through, you can randomize everything about it. And get really wild and super intense and kind of do a semi-controlled chaos type thing. Or you can go in and you can fine-tune each individual element exactly to be the type of distortion and the type of gating. You know, so you can do something where you've got 30-second note stepped gating and you've got a tape stop effect happening every 2 beats. And so it's just wild. Now, that's just the main features. Around that, we have some really, really full-featured performance options in terms of being able to save different scenes and navigate between them, being able to navigate different sequences. We even have upwards of 8 beats and 8 subdivisions. So you could very, very easily, and you can see when I did the randomize, it actually populated all of this for me. You could seed all the way out to 2 full bars at 30-second subdivisions and really kind of go nuts with how long you want your patterns to be. Everything is, of course, tempo synced to your DAW. If you want it to be, you can do free time as well. We do have global mix control, which is really, really nice. So if you build in a nice pattern, but you kind of want to hone it in a little bit, you also do have presets. Now, there's not a ton of them, and that actually really makes sense. You know, normally when you guys see me review plugins, I talk about how I like to have a lot of presets and a lot of different options. This is kind of one of the few plugins where that's not, I don't think that would be appropriate because it's so complex and it's so deeply featured that it would be really tricky to program a ton of presets for this. And the ones that are there are really all just kind of destructive, I would call them, because, you know, I've had everything set to even multiples, you know, 4 beats, 4 subdivisions, but you could easily take a track that's in 4/4 and go 7 beats with 3 subdivisions and then just go totally wild and get essentially kind of nonsense, what I would call nonsense. That really has no rhythmic bearing on the piece at hand. And it's completely detached from a time signature or anything like that. And that's also cool if you're looking for something really, really, really chaotic. You can kind of push it as far in that direction as you want. You can, of course, also have it do triplets, which is really cool. So if we set it to subdivisions of 3, and then we do something like this, and I'll turn the click on so you can hear it against the kind of natural 4/4 time. So here, you know, it's doing a really nice triplet pattern. You can do polyrhythms. You can do kind of 3/4. You can do so much stuff with it. Now, I love this plugin for all different kinds of things. I use it for lots and lots of different stuff. I think it's amazing on percussion. So I'll stick it on like a shaker or something that would normally just be really, really plain Jane. And I'll just play around with some of these things. And because a shaker on its own is a super rhythmic instrument, you know, like if you just got a shaker doing 16th notes, I'll do a 16th pattern that very gently modulates the shaker and gives it kind of a new ambiance, a new atmosphere. It doesn't do anything crazy and going, not like that. I'll just use a little bit of distortion or a little bit of chorusing and then use this to sequence it to be very, very rhythmic. And it just gives your shaker a ton of character. I'll use this on vocal samples a little more aggressively if I want like a really glitchy, kind of beat repeaty kind of a vocal sound, or, you know, that's flipping in between distortion and these different things. It's great for that. If I have a pad, like I was just doing here, kind of our example, and I'm going, well, this pad sound is kind of cool, and I could just throw the big reverb on it and call it a day. Well, what if we go in and we give it this really kind of nice texture? And you can, you know, because we have a global mix knob and then individual mix knobs for each effect, you can really tailor it in to be as intense or as subtle as you want it to be. It's so creative, it's so intuitive and easy to start working with immediately, but it's so deeply and richly featured. I mean, it's in, I think, my kind of top 5 or top 10 or whatever most innovative plugins that I've ever used. The plugins that totally stand apart and just represent something completely unique to me. There's other companies that have kind of done stuff similar-ish to this. It makes me think of, like, there was a plugin in FL called Grossbeat. I don't know if it's still around. It was a gating plugin that sort of did the same thing, but it was only a gate. And you could just do these kind of modulated and step sequenced gating effects. It didn't have a bit crusher in it. It didn't have distortion. It didn't have delay. It didn't have any of this stuff. So it's like one of my totally secret tricks as a producer. And I use it constantly in all kinds of interesting ways. And whenever I use it on a record, like if I'm producing an artist, and I'll be doing some percussion or something, producing out a beat, and I'll throw in a couple elements and I'll use glitch on it in this way where it's, I'll just do something kind of subtle and textural and give something an extra rhythmic dimension. I constantly have artists and other producers going, how did you do, what is that sound? It sounds like a shaker, or it sounds like a hi-hat, but there's something, is that a sample? Did you pitch it? And, it's glitch. It's this nice kind of secret little black box trick that I can do, or I can stick audio in and it comes out the other side sounding really crazy and really, really cool. So bottom line, if you guys do EDM production, if you do any kind of production where glitchy sounds are needed, whether that's sound design for like video game and film applications, whether that's producing EDM stuff, dubstep stuff, drum and bass type stuff, or, you even hear these kinds of effects sometimes in like trap. If any of that is your wheelhouse, I highly, highly, highly recommend taking a look at Glitch 2. It's incredibly cool, it's incredibly innovative, it's incredibly intuitive, and I think that there's nothing else in the market that can give you these kinds of sounds in this way. Definitely one of my secret sauces that I like to use in production. Absolutely love it. So we'll stick links down in the description, as we always do, to the website where you can pick up a copy of this plugin. I think it's about $70 US, but yeah, I think it's an awesome plug, and I think that if it looks like something you guys are interested in, it's right at the top of my list for stuff like this, so definitely take a peek. But what do you guys think? Do you have glitch type plugins that you really, really like to use in your productions? Do you have any plugins that are kind of your secret sauce for changing things up and making things sound more interesting? If you do, please leave them in the comments down below. I always love hearing from you. If you haven't yet subscribed to the Consordini channel, please do so. It really, really helps us out. Click that notification bell to be kept up to date with our new videos. And if you want to give this video a like or a share, that's deeply appreciated as well. Regardless, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini.com. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And we will see you in the next video.